The too long didn't read version of this video is just that Diablo IV is a shell of what the Diablo franchise used to be. While Blizzard used to be innovators that would put out genre-defining video games, Diablo IV feels safe. And I don't mean that in a positive way. I think the main issue that I have with Diablo IV is that you can tell a lot of the original Diablo developers are not here anymore. A lot of the issues that are plaguing Diablo IV are issues that were already dealt with in previous games in the franchise. But the current developers never experienced any of that. And so you can feel that in the game, why they're making the same mistakes again. I think one of my biggest issues with Diablo IV is that, unfortunately, it is a live service game. While there are very few examples of what a successful live service game could be, Diablo IV opts into the same generic AAA company live service that we've seen time and time again. Basically, Diablo IV feels incomplete. There are certain key features that the developers are holding off on adding to the game because they need to add them every few months to try and keep player retention up. This is content that has already finished development that they're holding off on adding to the game because they need to continually add content so that players feel like the game is being worked on. And the thing is that the developers are working on the game, but they're so far ahead in the pipeline, they're working on content that we haven't even heard about yet. And once they end up finishing that content, it's just going to end up going into the back catalog of all the other things that need to be added to the game so that they can continue working on the next content. And this is pretty smart because game development takes a lot of time. But personally, I miss a game coming out and being 100% complete. However, in Diablo IV's defense, the developers have been responding very aptly to a lot of fundamental issues that players are complaining about. Like the fact that we're going to get a gem bag in the future, or that they keep rebalancing the classes. But this in no way deserves recognition or even a congratulations. This is just basic shit that the game should have already had resolved beforehand. Now, you've probably seen the huge backlash since the first season has started with Diablo IV, and I'm kind of indifferent towards it. I understand people's frustration, and myself being an old school Diablo fan, I shared that frustration for a moment. But I think that the best quote I could give you is that I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. The sheer lack of content being brought into the game within the first season of Diablo IV, I think has surprised a lot of people and kind of made us all realize, whoa, if this is all they're adding now, then that means that it's going to take a very long time before this game adds any noteworthy content updates. Essentially, all Season 1 ended up adding was runes, which is an item that was in previous Diablo games. These are very similar to socketed gems, but end up having a set amount of stats and will usually end up affecting something very specific to your class. This is nothing new to the Diablo franchise, and the fact that they're only adding it now and acting like it's a feature when it's something that was already prevalent in previous games in the franchise is what's got us so concerned. Now, as if that wasn't bad enough, the incentive that you would have in Diablo 3 seasons was that you would start a new character, and as you would end up grinding through the season, you would end up getting very, very specific and niche legendary items and set piece items. These items were extremely hard to farm outside of seasons, so this was a great incentive for you to play through the season so that you could get that perfect set of gear that you were missing on your mainline character. Diablo IV instead opts to give us skins. I think that a battle pass adding skins is a good thing. It's just that there's no gameplay incentive to grind through the new season. I'm not getting anything that's going to impact my character overall other than just vanity. Like, skins are not what was missing from Diablo IV. Fixing the combat and getting stun locked by everything, or the repetitive nature of grinding levels at the end game. Like, there's so many things wrong with the game right now that keeps it from being exciting or engaging. But live service games are always going to opt into giving players skins because they're extremely easy to develop and will end up getting them a lot of money. There's something to be said about AAA studios these days. It was their passion that got them to the point where they became a AAA studio. But somewhere along the line, they started seeing us as customers rather than players. At its core, I did enjoy my time with Diablo IV. Up to a point anyways. Like, I ended up getting my character over level 65, and at that point I started to realize that it was going to take me over an hour and a half to grind a level, and all I would have to show for it would just be a slight stat increase, with the hope that eventually I would become powerful enough that I could start grinding the end game gear at level 85 and up. But then I just realized that it wasn't worth my time. The way I value video games is based on the price that I spent on the game versus the amount of fun that I'm having. And I'd say that out of my total 60 hours playtime, the initial 25% was absolutely awesome. Like, they've got the formula down to a T for how invigorating the early portion of the game feels. But unfortunately, the other 75% of the game is from level 50 and up, which in my opinion is just boring and shallow. You're grinding for the sake of grinding. You're just trying to increase numbers. And because of enemies scaling to your level, combat doesn't really evolve in any meaningful way. So without further ado, I've decided to uninstall the game. I may return to Diablo 4 in about a year, or when I see a big content drop hit, or maybe I won't. Regardless, I can confidently say that I am no longer a fan of this franchise and will not be getting Diablo 5 if it ever comes out.